Let's be real for a second. Are you completely tired of resolution fatigue? You know the drill. You set these massive, life-altering health goals on January 1st, only to find yourself completely burned out and back to square one a few weeks later. Well, in today's Explainer, we are going to fix exactly that. We're exploring a practical, no-nonsense roadmap designed by Dr. Jeremy London. He's a board-certified cardiovascular surgeon with over 25 years of clinical practice, so he's seen firsthand what works and what doesn't. We're going to break down his 7 daily habits for long-term longevity and health, but honestly, more importantly than the habits themselves, we're going to talk about the mindset required to actually make them stick.
Okay, let's dive into this. Dr. London uses this incredibly powerful night-driving metaphor to explain exactly why we always fail at our big goals. Imagine you're driving across the entire country, from New York to Los Angeles, in the dead of night. You don't stare off into the pitch-black distance trying to see your final destination of LA, right? You literally can't. All you can see is the small stretch of road illuminated by your headlights. And the truth is, you only need to illuminate the next turn in the road, and just make it that far. Forget the overwhelming, massive goals that cause resolution fatigue. To get to your destination, you just need to focus on the very next small, obtainable step.
So, to keep things simple, here's how we're going to break down today's lifestyle journey. 1. The secret to lasting habits. 2. Mastering rest and recovery. 3. Daily fuel and hydration. 4. Movement for metabolic health. 5. Building lifelong muscle strength. And 6. Choosing your starting point. We're grouping these 7 daily habits into these highly actionable categories so it absolutely doesn't feel overwhelming.
Starting off with Section 1, the secret to lasting habits and the mindset to avoid resolution fatigue.
And moving right into Section 2, mastering rest and recovery, or building your foundation while you sleep.
So, the crucial point is that identifying your honest starting point is the foundation for absolutely all of the physical habits we're about to cover. And honestly, the most critical place to start is how we rest and recover. It's the ultimate foundation. But frankly, it's a massive struggle, even for a busy cardiovascular surgeon who has spent 25 years on call. But here are your first 2 habits designed to build that foundation while you sleep. Habit 1 is setting a bedtime alarm. Think about it. We all set alarms to wake up because we have jobs and responsibilities, right? But going to bed at the exact same time is just as critical to setting your body's normal wake-sleep cycle rhythm. And then there's habit 2. Get morning sunlight. Getting outside to see that early, low-angle sunlight physically locks that rhythm in. You don't stare directly into the sun, obviously, but simply looking out in the direction of the rising sun for a few minutes is incredibly powerful.
And this brings us to the fascinating physiological why behind that bedtime alarm. As Dr. London puts it, recovery is really where the magic happens, because our brains actually get washed of waste material. That's right, washed. Consistent sleep actually physically cleanses your brain tissue of the toxic waste material that literally builds up throughout your waking hours. Without that bedtime alarm, your brain simply doesn't get the required time to scrub away the waste and prepare for tomorrow.
And what about that morning sunlight? Well, it all comes down to a delicate dance between 2 hormones, cortisol and melatonin. Habit 2's morning sunlight kicks off cortisol. That is your immediate natural wake-up hormone, and the sun triggers it right when your system needs it. But here's the brilliant part. That early light exposure also perfectly sets the internal timer for your melatonin release later that evening. Melatonin is the hormone that actually helps you relax and fall asleep. So, by managing your morning light, you are completely controlling your evening sleep. It's all connected.
Section 3. Daily fuel and hydration. What we put in our bodies.
Focusing on what we put into our bodies during our waking hours brings us to habit 6. Keep a water bottle with you and add electrolytes. Now, Dr. London himself actually admits to being terrible at this one because of his long, crazy hours in the operating room. But he stresses that having a constant visual reminder, literally just keeping that water bottle in your line of sight, is key to staying on track. You see, when we sweat or just go about our daily lives, we aren't just losing water. We're losing vital electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Adding a good, science-backed ratio of electrolytes to your water is absolutely foundational for cellular absorption and preventing that mid-afternoon cognitive and physical crash.
Okay, and now for habit 4. Eliminate alcohol. Yes, I know. I can feel the collective sigh through the screen. This is easily the least popular recommendation here, but Dr. London actually calls it the most transformative decision of his entire adult life. Removing alcohol completely allows you to live your life completely untampered. To him, it just didn't make any sense to spend all this time eating whole foods, exercising, optimizing his sleep, and then voluntarily, actively poisoning his body.
Now, what's really interesting here is this incredibly bold, surprising prediction from Dr. London. He says, "I truly believe that alcohol will be the next cigarettes in the next 5 years." Wow. Why would he say that? Because the emerging data clearly shows that no level of alcohol, not even moderate use, is considered physiologically safe anymore. Dr. London predicts that very soon we are going to see severe health warnings for all regular alcohol use, not just the ones we currently see for pregnant women.
Section 4. Movement for metabolic health. Taking control of blood glucose.
Okay, so we fueled up. Now let's transition into how we optimize our bodies post-fueling to control our blood glucose. 10 to 20. Just 10 to 20 minutes. Taking a gentle walk for this short amount of time right after a meal is literally one of the single most powerful things you can do for your entire body.
The immediate effect of that quick 10 to 20-minute walk is that your blood glucose drops. And the long-term benefit? It prevents insulin resistance. Dr. Linden shared a personal anecdote that really drove this home. He decided to wear a continuous glucose monitor just to see what was happening in his own body. He realized his post-dinner sugar levels were staying dangerously high. He was actually pre-diabetic and had no idea. But simply by strolling outside with his dogs for 10 to 15 minutes after dinner, he watched those sugar numbers plummet in real time on his monitor. This unbelievably simple act prevents long-term insulin resistance, heart disease, and stroke. It's a total game changer.
Section 5. Building lifelong muscle strength. Future-proofing your body. Moving to our final physical optimization phase, we are looking at habits 5 and 7. Think of these as your ultimate longevity indicators. Habit 5 is high-intensity aerobic training. Look, you need to push your heart rate up just 1 day a week. Doing this improves your VO2 max, which is basically your heart's ability to deliver oxygen to your tissues. A higher VO2 max is the single most powerful indicator of a long life. And then there's habit 7, resistance training. Lifting weights literally builds a sink for the glucose in your bloodstream. Your muscles act like a sponge, safely soaking up and metabolizing blood sugar before it can cause any damage to your system.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real goal of all this. The deadlifts you do at 30 allow you to get out of the chair at 80. Or, the weights you do at 50 allow you to lift your own suitcases at 75. Resistance training isn't about bodybuilding or looking a certain way at the beach. It is entirely about functional independence in old age. As we age, we naturally lose muscle mass. You absolutely have to stimulate your muscles to combat that loss so you don't fall and break a hip later in life. It's about future-proofing yourself.
But hey, don't worry, if the gym isn't your thing, consider these accessible options. Air squats, push-ups, sit-ups, planks, resistance bands. Let me reassure you right now, you do not need an expensive, fancy gym membership to succeed here. Putting your muscles under tension with simple, at-home movements works perfectly. Your body doesn't know the difference between a heavy iron weight and a stretchy resistance band in your living room. It just knows tension.
Section 6. Choosing your starting point. Small steps lead to massive change.
Let's move to the end and see how this all builds together. Pulling together our night driving analogy with these physical health habits, just consider the difference between making one change versus making no changes at all. Dr. London makes a really profound point here. Perfection is not required. You might not resonate with all 7 of these habits right now, and that is totally fine. But picking just one item from this list, making just one tiny change, is exponentially more powerful than remaining stuck. Complacency is an incredibly dangerous mindset. Staying exactly the same is what we should really fear.
So I want to leave you with this one thought. Which single habit will be your next bend in the road? Remember, you only need to see as far as your headlights shine. Will you set a bedtime alarm tonight? Will you take a 10-minute walk after dinner tomorrow? Will you add some electrolytes to your water? Identify your starting point, make that small, obtainable change, and watch it compound for your long-term health and longevity. Pick your headlights and let's get moving. What are you going to tackle first?